All right, this is the breaking news. The Labor Department just released new unemployment figures for last week. CNN Chief Business Correspondent Christine Romans has the details. Romans.
Another devastating number, John. 3,839,000 people filed for unemployment benefits for the very first time. That brings the 6-week total over the past 6 weeks to about 30 million people out of work. When you look at the size of the labor market at the beginning of March, that's 18.6% of the American labor market filed for unemployment benefits in just the past 6 weeks. This was another devastating number. These numbers are slowing, but I mean, they're awful, every one of them. And every one of those numbers is a person who has rent to pay or mortgage to pay tomorrow, May 1st, and may still be waiting for their unemployment benefits. It's been very difficult for the states to coordinate just this massive wave of people who have been put out of work by the coronavirus, John.
You bring up a good point. I also want to bring in CNN anchor and correspondent Julia Chatterley here. People might look at these figures, 3.8 million, and say, oh, that's less than it was a few weeks ago when 6 million people were filing, Julia. If you had told anyone 2 months ago that 3.8 million people would file jobless claims in 1 week, their hair would be on fire. That is an enormous number of people still filing 6 weeks into this crisis.
I mean, we're talking 1 in 5 workers in the United States in the space of 6 weeks now out of a job, furloughed or frightened for the future of their jobs. And yes, that trend rate is coming down, as you quite rightly mentioned, John, but it's still millions of people. And the expectation is that there's still going to be millions more, even as we get to the end of this week and we've got states beginning the process of reopening. We know how complicated that's going to be. We know that workers are frightened, that consumers are still frightened. We don't know what reopening looks like. So I think as much as we're seeing these numbers coming down, expect millions more, and expect, when you're looking at these numbers, an unemployment rate in the United States that dwarfs anything that we saw in the Great Recession. We're talking between 16 and 20% unemployment. I mean, I can say that again and I still won't believe it.
Yeah, 30 million people in 6 weeks. Again, it is almost beyond belief. Christine Romans, I have a question about going forward.
Sure.
As states begin to reopen in some ways, and presumably in some cases people start going back to work, how will that be reflected in the numbers that we see starting next week?
Well, there are some real challenges for people who have lost their jobs here or have been furloughed. I mean, think of it. Some people aren't looking for new work right now. They've been furloughed, and at some point they're going to be asked to come back. But what if they have somebody in the family with a pre-existing condition? What if they have kids who are still out of school? What if they fear for their own safety going back to work? They have some really big questions to answer here. And some people, quite frankly, are getting unemployment benefits that might be a little bit better than the pay that they had when they left. They're going to want to take as much time as they can, right, for a safe working environment to go back to. So I think that we're going to have a kind of a murky situation here going forward as we try to get these people back to work. You know, in Iowa, John, the governor just recently said that, look, if you're invited to go back to your job and you don't want to go, that's called a voluntary quit. You don't get jobless benefits. So before some people even receive their first unemployment check, they are confronted with this problem about when you're going to go back to work and will you be safe?
Yeah, you